When I was living in Cincinnati and adjuncting too many classes across too many universities, I developed a pre-bedtime coping mechanism in which, as soon as I laid my head down to sleep, I'd put all my effort into fantasizing about something really good happening to me. Typically, these fantasies were organized around writing successes, finishing my book, publishing a story, getting an email from an agent. All things that were somewhat improbable within the framework of reality, in part because my precarious part-time teaching load inspired an unshakable sense of despair that rarely made me feel like doing the kind of writing that could lead to those kind of outcomes. But it did help me fall asleep. This pre-bedtime ritual of lying there and envisioning in great detail the kinds of achievements that would really mean something to me. It was also a good way of actively avoiding the imaginative death spiral to which many of us are prone when we're left alone with our thoughts. Eventually, though, I can't identify exactly when, I stopped this routine. I wasn't writing as much, publishing wasn't on my mind. I felt consumed by the rapidly diminishing possibilities of life in the 21st century and what Toni Morrison identified in her Jefferson lecture in the Humanities as the loss of the future. Time, it seems, has no future, she said. That is, time no longer seems to be an endless stream through which the human species moves with confidence in its own increasing consequence and value. The course of time seems to be narrowing to a vanishing point beyond which humanity neither exists nor wants to. For what it's worth, Morrison did believe that time has a future. For her, it was literature that contained all the signs of renewal and redemption that we needed to shepherd us onward. I agree, of course. I'm no fool. Art opens up a space for hope. It dares us to dream. Perhaps this kind of assertion is, at worst, reductive and at best, cringe. Though, as the good book says, let him who is without cringe cast the first nakedly cynical argument against art's potential to change the world. And if that's too grand in scale, then at least to change how we feel about our place in it. Today's episode is a little bit about hope, and a little about fantasy, and a little bit about that specific brand of movie magic that collapses the distinction between the two. I'm your host, Matt Jones, and this is another episode of I'm Not Crying.
All right, today I'm here with Miles Klee. How you doing, Miles?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing okay, I think. Where are you recording from?
I am in LA, Silver Lake specifically. Won't get any more specific than that in case the haters want to find out.
Sure. Yeah. Silver Lake. I know. I hear about Silver Lake. Never been. I've seen the movie Under the Silver Lake.
Oh yeah, a bit of a pity about that one.
Yeah. It's an area that's known for having an interesting vibe.
I think most commonly just understood as part of the Brooklyn of LA. A lot of tattoos, a lot of kind of divey bars, and expensive coffee. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That sounds not too bad, actually. Yeah. There's really no expensive coffee where I am. We do have, I think, like a couple towns over, though. I was thinking about it. We have a place called Klee's Corner Store, which is not a last name that I feel like I see too often. But I was thinking about it.
No, there's not too many of us. And in fact, I'm pretty sure I'm the only Miles Klee worldwide, just based on my SEO footprint and Google search results.
That's incredible.
But yeah, I always assume I'm related to all of them, up into and including Paul Klee, big fan of the art. We don't bother pronouncing it that way anymore because it's not worth the hassle in America. You just got to streamline that shit.
Oh, okay. But it Klee.
Originally, yeah, in the old German, in the Danish world, that's how you would say it.
Oh yeah, I guess isn't that the story? Yeah. Pronunciation.
So people will try to flex on, if they want to impress me the first time they're meeting me, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, Miles Klee," and I'm like, wow. Okay, well you're technically right, but we kind of just don't bother.
Okay. Well, okay. Yeah. I should have dug into that. Yeah. That's cool. Well, yeah, I'm glad that we could talk today. I know that I had originally reached out to you online about One Battle After Another.
That's right. Yes.
And then, but you also had another movie in mind that it seemed like it came to you pretty quickly, being Raising Arizona.
The first time I met Ed was in the county lockup in Tempe, Arizona. You're a flower, you are. A day I'll never forget.
I do.
You bet I do.
Okay, then.
Yes, it's something that we had talked about. I think I guess I've watched One Battle After Another, or at least the ending, the back half 3 times, and kind of wept at the end every time, which is very moved. And I think it does have an interesting connection with the end of Raising Arizona, which again is about parentage and kind of these generational feelings, and so there is a connection there. And yeah, I guess I was immediately reminded of it because I didn't used to kind of like tear up at the end of this movie, which I think I've seen like 50 times. I've seen every Coen Brothers movie a million times. And I don't think it was until maybe a few years ago that I felt like truly just emotionally devastated by the end. Not devastated, that's not the right word. Just felt so moved by the end of this movie. And I still don't think there's any other thing in the Coen Brothers universe that makes me feel this way. It sort of feels like a throwback to some early sentimentality they maybe have like excised from their whole vibe in some ways. I think it comes back in certain ways, but I don't know if they ever let themselves feel this like this pure of heart ever again, from like 1984 or whenever this was. I should have remembered what year it was. Is it 84? That sounds right.
It's 87.
87.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Way off.
So they're less, I get they've gotten less pure of heart. Maybe fame will do that. I don't know.
No, I mean, there's obviously very good flashes of it. I think they can be very cynical, very nasty filmmakers, and that's a part of the joy of it. But, the end of Fargo is like a good example of like that, that purity and that pureness of heart shining through. And you see that, that's what it's all about. Marge and Ned cuddling in bed, and trying to kind of like not exactly make sense of the awful world that they live in, but like having the retreat from that and the safety from that is a very moving scene as well. But it just doesn't do this exact thing to me. And it's interesting too that she's like a pregnant character, and you have a lady cop in this as well, and the lady cop in Holly Hunter character in this can't get pregnant. So I don't know that they have these kind of repetitions that are funny. I think I also remarked rewatching this last night, Raising Arizona, that so many scenes of it feel like the farcical version of a scene from No Country for Old Men where everyone would wind up dead.
Sure, right. Sure. Yeah. I see. That would be the ultimate cynical, I guess extreme. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and because that's Cormac and whatever. But I was laughing so much, especially during that kind of like Huggies chase scene, which is the kind of virtuoso piece of the film, because I think there's like 200 bullets fired during that whole like 3 minutes or something, and nobody's injured, nobody dies, or whatever. Like, and that's just kind of you kind of get the exact opposite thing in No Country, where it's like people are just walking by and just catching random bullets because they happen to be there and they're dying.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they are extremely quick on the trigger in Raising Arizona, but it feels like it's poking fun at that.
Yeah, it's not quite an ACAB movie, of course, because Holly Hunter, Ed, is like a good cop in some sense.
Yeah.
But it does kind of highlight. And so I said I live in LA, and there is a kind of a local sport of, maybe on Friday after some drinks or at a show or something, maybe you're at the diner, and the diner will probably have the news on, and the news at Friday night at that hour will probably be showing a high-speed police chase, because that's just kind of like a pretty standard Friday night occurrence in LA.
Top down on the convertible, that's kind of nuts, but that's almost a funny kind of nuts. But what this guy is doing is really taking low.
And people watch it as entertainment, right? But it always blows my mind. I think I mentioned this watching the chase in Raising Arizona, where, you know, it is putting hundreds of people's lives at risk to do a high-speed police chase of some guy who like maybe knocked over a convenience store or whatever. There's no and stole like $40. There's no reason for this. It's like, you have the guy's license plate, you can figure out who it is. Like we live in a surveillance state. So this concept that you need to put hundreds of people's lives at risk to do this sort of like superhero version of what you think a cop is supposed to be is so crazy. And you definitely see that in this movie, where it's like he steals a pack of diapers and you're shooting at him. Like, it's just,
that's what it's all for.
It's nuts. Yeah. And that's 40 years earlier. So it's always, I guess it's been that way for a while.
Yeah, it does seem like that. Yeah, and I feel like I've come around to seeing it that way a lot. Probably just getting older, less as entertainment than seeing it as an extreme overindulgence in willing to catch one person.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the cops think they're in a video game, and I think you see that in this film and in real life, and that's as kind of like exaggerated as the Coen universe gets, especially in this film. As farcical as it gets, and like, that's absolutely true. And that's down to even, I mean, this is more like a regionally specific thing, but all the characters who kind of like are shopkeepers who then bust out with a shotgun and go for it because they want to be the hero too. Like that all feels horribly realistic, actually.
It does. Yeah. Everybody wants to be the hero. Do you remember? I guess I remember kind of being a kid and watching things like Cops, and like the pit maneuver was kind of the ultimate go-to for ending it. But is that a thing that are cops doing pit maneuvers?
Oh, definitely. I don't think they've like invented something better per se.
Okay. Yeah, that tracks. Yeah.
If it were, when you watch those old 70s movies like Vanishing Point or something, and it's set out in kind of like a, I don't know, kind of cowboy desert vibe, that's when they're pulling out like the caltrops and like spikes and all that. So they're trying a lot of different things for like an isolated car, but like in LA, the whole thing is, there's traffic. So I mean, I vividly remember the last one we watched because just because of how absurd it was. And this feels like a detail from like a Raising Arizona or something similar, which was that the guy stopped for gas.
Southbound Long Beach now, making another westbound turn here, finding another gas station. Might even be the same one. He must be low on gas. Driver stepping out of the vehicle, and he's going to drop it right here. He's going to get gas.
The guy they were chasing stopped for gas because he was out of gas, and he still got away.
Oh, he did?
No, completely got away.
Well.
Like, I think in part it's because I think they are probably trained, and it probably is very dangerous to try to just ram into a guy at the gas station and, you can potentially blow the whole thing up, right? So he's protected in that sense, but still he was able to like peel out, get away. He probably only got like, $10 worth of gas. It's pretty funny because I guess he did have to pay for it with a card or something. Like it's hard to tell from, the helicopter footage, but
yeah. Wow. That's good. I mean, yeah, I guess you have to, though. You have to pay for the gas.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't go into the desk or anything. So I don't know if he was, I can't imagine there's like no way to put in cash at the machine itself. So maybe he had a stolen card, who knows? But everyone in the diner when we were watching that was just in awe because they were like, wow, he just got gas and left.
Incredible. And I'm assuming this is because like a police helicopter has like video on them, and then the police haven't caught up. Does that?
I think they were kind of waiting to see where he would go.
Okay.
Because they couldn't necessarily. My sense was that they couldn't necessarily like apprehend him right there. But it did seem odd. I think everyone watching that was kind of like, wouldn't you just get out of the car and run out? But like, maybe that's also like LA car culture. Like cops forget that you can like get out of the car and just go arrest that guy. They're like waiting for him to get back on the road because maybe they're enjoying the chase themselves. Who can say?
I was just thinking about that. Is it also, I guess, to go back to what you said, game-like for them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they think they're in Grand Theft Auto as what is, I guess, essentially the bad guys of Grand Theft Auto. But
yeah. Wow. I haven't seen a live car chase in a while. Yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah, if you get on like a Facebook, the Facebook channel of like any local LA TV affiliate on a Friday, it's just kind of like a guaranteed thing. I don't know why it's a Friday thing, but it is.
Okay. I was going to say where we live, which is really rural Pennsylvania now. Around like Christmas, a lot of police lights appeared outside of our house, and like a lot of vehicles, kind of like armored vehicles and cop cars at our neighbor's house. And my wife was pretty sure that there was going to be like gunfire breaking out, because we've heard our neighbor and his spouse fight. And what it ended up being after we'd kind of moved to the basement, was it's how they announce, because they were on megaphones saying you need to come out, like you're under arrest, but it's how they announce who's going to go visit Santa. So you've been selected to visit Santa, and I forget that part of living here is that is.
Santa is militarized.
Yeah, Santa's militarized. I'm primed for violence, but it's just show.
Wow. Yeah. Well, Santa has to make a show of force. That's important too, because how else are naughty children going to kind of modify their behavior if they don't feel that threat?
No, that tracks. That's part of his whole shtick, I guess. Yeah. Well, I'm curious with Raising Arizona. You mentioned you've seen it a number of times, so I'm wondering, do you remember the first time that you saw it?
It must have been like 20 years ago, because I would have been, almost out of college, and I think, I'd taken a few film classes, and I was getting really into Coen Brothers, and I thought, probably. Trying to think of what Fargo might have been the first one I'd seen, which I was obsessed with. And then, of course, kind of stoner requisite is Big Lebowski and a few others. And and then I was kind of like going through them all, and I found them all sort of like different levels of funny, dark, but like, always a combination of those things. And some of them I could relate to more. A lot of them felt, in these lands beyond, because I grew up in the Northeast, and that's like really not their vibe at all. Everything is kind of like frontier land to a certain extent, right? Up to Midwest, out to California, down to the Southwest kind of stuff. So I think I enjoyed that about it. And I think my experience of Nick Cage at that point was probably just like Face Off and that The Rock and Con Air, and I just knew him as like this kind of like gonzo action guy. I had not seen like Moonstruck or anything like that yet. I didn't know him, or like Leaving Las Vegas. I didn't know him from these other kind of like more nuanced roles. And and I think my ex and I, who watched everything together, watched it, and I thought it was super funny, and I thought it was even probably like the funniest thing they had done, because while it does have these kinds of like edges around it, it is such a kind of caper, and where everyone is sort of fine except for the one big bad like spaghetti western Mad Max villain. Everyone is sort of fine at the end, and he's sort of made up to begin with, right? And he's just sort of like a fantasy. So yeah, I don't remember the exact moment, but it would have been in the middle of kind of like downloading that entire canon up to that point, which that was before even something like A Serious Man, Burn After Reading, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I liked it a lot, and I think I remember thinking I probably saw Blood Simple first, and which is there first, and arguably one of the like darkest and most cynical. And I think it is quite funny that they could get from that movie to this one, which even has that one actor whose name I'm gonna blank on, Emmett something. Yeah. He's just like in a bit part in Raising Arizona, where he's the mechanic with Nick Cage. But yeah, it was kind of impressive to me that I was like, oh, I know they can be like really dark and really nasty, and this movie, even though it has all that element, like the kidnapping and criminality and all this kind of like gunplay and stuff, like it is so Looney Tunes. It's like and I say that positively, like it has a Looney Tunes energy. It has like a Coyote and Roadrunner
Oh yeah,
sort of vibe that I love.
That's a really good way of putting it. And I would think, pro Looney Tunes. So I would take that as a
love
good
it,
thing.
love it.
Yeah.
It made me feel, I don't know. I found it very heartwarming the first time I saw it, I think. And then it's only as I got older that I'm like, oh, like what is actually heartwarming about it is sort of like, really gets me emotionally at the end, or like whatever sentimentality it has. And I think that's not even a good enough word, because I think it's better than that. I don't think it's like cheesy in sentimentality. I think it's authentically sentimental, and sentimental in a way that like that it very much understands the viewer. And it's just one of those movies that has gotten better and like more complicated to me as I've gotten older. I don't know if I would say that about all of those movies. Some of them are just still hitting me in the same way.
Okay.
But I don't know. Even in the same way, we're like, no, this isn't the same thing. But watching like a Simpsons episode as a kid versus watching a Simpsons episode as an adult, it's like, I love how you sort of identify with like a Bart and Lisa position as a kid.
Sure.
And then as the adults, you're like, okay, Homer has a point here, or whatever.
Yeah. It does completely shift. Yeah. I guess depending on what age you're at, and I guess more so like what experiences you've had.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think I've definitely had that more consciously as I'm trying to be more cognizant of why I'm reacting to movies, thinking about that, about how I would identify with one character now, but probably in college I would have felt differently.
Yeah.
So when did Raising Arizona kind of make the shift toward being a movie that made you cry?
I want to say it was like maybe like 5 watches ago, which maybe puts it like, honestly, I feel like I watch it every year at this point. It's just such a favorite. I mean, on any given day, it's kind of in my, I think I would say it's like uncontroversially like in my top 5 Coens. And then some days I'm like, I don't know if they did a better one. Like I think it's so tight and so funny. There's like just not a beat out of place.
Yeah.
The rhythm of it is just perfect. And I think, so I'm about to turn 41. So probably around the time I was like 35. I think what really started to sink in for me was some of the stuff about having a family and my own parents, maybe. And I'm someone who I think around that time was really coming to the decision that I'm like, I'm not going to have children of my own. I think my parents would like me to. I really adore my parents. They're great parents, and they've been married for 40 odd years. And I think it was also a time when people my own age were starting to have children. So I was starting to meet like my friends' kids, right?
Oh yeah.
And it was just a time when all those kinds of decisions and non-decisions, right? Because it's a lot about luck, right? Like as the movie addresses, like you just got to keep trying, like, and so like their struggle in the film where she can't have children, they're trying to adopt, but they can't because he's a convict. That started to hit home a little bit more for me. And now, honestly, every time I watch it, I start getting hit in the feels like earlier and earlier in the film, just because of their kind of like struggle in this respect. It's funny that this is like a parallel to Michael Mann's Thief, where they can't adopt the kid because he's a convict, which is played as a much more like dramatic, like fucked up scene of him flipping out at them. But it's kind of hitting the same theme, right? And yeah, I don't know. I guess I also thought too about my own parents and them deciding to have. I'm the oldest, and I always talk with my parents about how impossible it would be for a lot of people in my generation to have kids, and they recognize that for economic reasons and everything else. And they talk about sacrifices they had to make to have children and stuff like that. And I don't know, like all that stuff just comes to the fore to me when I watch this movie now. So I think about my own parents, I think about my friends having kids, and the choice to have children, and the difficulty of like how you do it if you can't immediately kind of get pregnant in the way that a lot of other people do. My ex was of many years was adopted, and so like that always hit kind of hard too. I think I had an argument with my parents many years ago about how if she and I were ever going to have kids, we would adopt them because she was adopted. Yeah. And my mom didn't take that well, and that was a whole conversation. And so I don't know, all these issues kind of converge in this film in a way where that ending just blows me away. And even last night when I was rewatching it, I was like, I don't know if this is going to get me the same as it always does, but sure enough, yeah, it's pretty reliable now.
Really? Okay. And I guess I'm curious. Like I would see, I'm in the same generation as you, so it's something I think about all the time. As someone, I mean, I know I'm not going to have kids. I think often if I ended up with kids, it would be like a movie type scenario to where I've like learned that a family member I didn't know about like had a kid, and I like need to take care of them. But I don't have like an intention to. And it also being at the same age where I now have my friends' kids that I can kind of connect with as like a fun, distant person through Zoom. Does it work for you, like the ending, because it's ultimately like a good ending about like good people doing the right thing?
I like that it ends with a fantasy, because I really struggle to think of a movie that kind of caps it off that way. This time I was really strongly connecting it back to the early scene that was really starting to get me already, which is back in the salad days, as Hai calls it, when it's just him and Edie, and they're watching the sunset, and he's explaining that
her point was that there was too much love and beauty for just the two of us. And every day we kept a child out of the world was a day he might later regret having missed.
And I was like, holy shit, is that like the exact opposite of like everything you hear from like everyone in my generation, right? Like it's so effective, right? Because it's shot against this beautiful sunset, the two of them together, and they're like, we need like a child to share this with, like to experience this with us. And I was like, I don't know if there's like ever been a more effective argument for having a kid than that scene. Like that really blows me away. And yeah, it really, I have that twinge, right, when I see that scene, and the sun goes down, and she goes, "That was beautiful." And it's so good. And I'm like, my own parents have never been able to like get to me on that level in terms of like why you should have a kid, right? Even though they would love me to.
Oh, sure. Oh, so that would be like a more effective, not even rhetorical, like emotional argument to make.
I think so. Like there's something that it's the magic of cinema, right? Like you can't blame your parents for not having this power, but like that scene and that kind of like narration just is really, really effective. And then to have that dream denied for the whole film, including when they have the kidnapped kid, because I mean, obviously that's not working. They're not sharing beauty and love with him. He's constantly almost about to die. And then they kind of resolve that magic, that's like a magical resolution that they're able to pull off. And then to have this fantasy at the end, because I think it's so effective because he leads you through his whole dream, right? And the dream is about everyone else at first. And you're not even thinking about, their storyline, because he's like, I'm resolving everyone else's story through this dream. And this would be like the best way to do it. And then he's like, then I dreamed on, and like, and what else could happen? And this could happen. Yeah. And it's not even necessarily the dream of having children who then have children. Then you have this big family that comes to your, trailer home and celebrates it. It's just masterfully done in the sense that he's talking about all possibility for all life, right?
Yeah.
Like I find that incredibly beautiful, like, and incredibly affecting, because he's talking about his own fantasy, but he is talking about the potential for like the human species, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's mind-blowingly good because it's not really specific to them. It's not that they will be the ones to have like this huge brood and this happy family. It's that we have the potential to succeed and to continue to share like love and beauty, as she says in, as he narrates her saying in that sunset scene earlier in the movie. And so it just comes home in such a, I think it's such a powerful way. And the way it's shot is like, just behind them as they're old. And that's another thing too. I think, Hollywood is not big on like sort of positive depictions of like the elderly generally. And so like to have this shot from behind where you can see how they're kind of like stooped and like shuffling, gray haired, but they're like so happy and they're so full of this happiness is just overwhelming. Like I just can't think of another depiction of that kind of happiness on screen. I just think it's extremely rare, and especially from these guys. I mean, where else are you going to get that?
Yeah, I'm struggling to call up another like example at the moment.
I love it.
Yeah. And I think the way that you describe it, I think also makes me love it that much more. I mean, I also get what you're saying about it being movie magic. I think I have times where I come out of a movie and I really feel kind of like bright-eyed and like it's time to change the world. And then that sometimes, well, most of the time it like wears off and then I go back to like life. But I think I'm most interested probably by what you were saying about that idea that what they're proposing in the movie, that if you give someone life, then you're opening up their whole world to all of this beauty that life has to offer, which does feel, I guess, quite different from reasonings that you'd maybe find today for not having kids.
Yeah. And that ending a shot too, where it's the back of their heads, but then it's this light streaming in, and it's this beautiful. It's that southwestern Arizona desert light, and it's sort of blinding. It's almost like they're in heaven already.
Yeah.
And it makes it feel like no matter what happens to them, they will find happiness. They'll find like paradise. So it's just it's so ridiculously uplifting.
Yeah.
In a way that you just like you can't possibly expect this from this movie. This whole time you're going through it, unless you've seen it a million times as I have, you're like, and of course toward the end, Ed is telling him that no matter what happens, they're going to break up. This is never going to work. And they have that great conversation with Nathan Arizona, where he's like, no, you're good people. And, they've returned.
A really nice moment.
They've returned the kidnapped child, and this is, I mean, let's be real, it's like the most unrealistic part of the whole thing, that he's like not going to call the authorities and they're fine or whatever. Combined with like one of the most cynically real things, which is that I think he leaves the handgun in the bassinet with the baby that he's threatening them.
I think, yeah, you're right. It is. I know you described it as kind of like a caper, like Looney Tunes-esque tonal caper, which I agree with, but it does feel, I guess the way you're talking about it right now, like the film is so much of a hopeful fantasy.
Yeah. And you know what? I also feel that on the class level with this movie, because of course you're talking about people who are living in a trailer, kidnapping one of the quintuplets of this like millionaire family, right?
Yeah.
And it's very expressly done as a haves and have nots, right? Like they're like, you have more than you need. We'll take one of the babies, like, right? And so of course you're like very sympathetic to the lower class characters who are like, we just want like a little bit. Like we don't want all your babies. We don't want all your money. We we don't want all of this. We just thought like you might not even notice, right?
Yeah.
Which makes them so sympathetic. But of course, we know in real America, you'd go to prison for life. Like there's no question.
Yeah. And I do like that. There's that moment where when he does take Nathan Jr. Out of the quints, and she asks him which one he got. And he thinks it's Nathan Jr. But then I was also thinking, like, would they know which one was gone?
No, there's very explicitly a line later, which is so funny, which reveals that they don't even know which one they got, or like the Arizonas don't know which one, and he's like, "You return Nathan Jr. or whichever one it was."
Yeah,
He says something like that, which it's like points to sort of the indifference of abundance, right? Like you're like, how do you even know like which of your quintuplets is missing? You don't.
Yeah, very much. What would you? I guess there's that certain class distinction. I feel like where I think if there is a character in a movie who has so much that they wouldn't notice if a thing was gone, and I guess you can tie this more to heist films or even like Office Space, then I'm probably not likely to feel any sympathy at all for them.
It's a really good callback when he says Nathan Jr. or whichever one you stole, because the first time that High is in there trying to steal one of the kids, one of the kids starts crying, and Nathan Arizona looks up and he goes,
"That sounds like Larry,"
as if he knows which one the baby. Yeah, and so like he starts with that kind of delusion of like, I know where each and every one of my babies are and what they sound like and what their personality is. And by the end, he's like, whichever one that was,
And I appreciate the gag that they have all of the babies' names in the same huge bassinet, as if the babies couldn't move around and then occupy whatever name holders above them. I was thinking,
I guess you got to try something.
One moment I feel like that really. So this is the first time I've seen this movie. I've heard about it and I've seen other Coen movies. Like I remember watching Blood Simple and thinking like, whoa! Like I felt kind of crazy at the end in a good way for like, I think when movies do things that I'm not expecting. But one of the things that I really enjoyed about this movie was when John Goodman and his brother, they take the baby. And whenever they take the baby, they end up having truly strong feelings for the baby's well-being.
Yes.
Despite leaving it behind, but always making sure to do their best to do right by the baby, because this baby is like, and I guess that's how maybe that there's that pop culture fantasy idea about a baby. Like a baby makes everything great. Like everyone can love a baby and get behind a baby, want to see a baby's photos. And that feels very much a part of this.
Yes. I was saying last night that one of my favorite aspects of the plot mechanics and the emotions of the film is that everyone who encounters the baby immediately falls in love with him. Yeah. Like it's so good how within 30 seconds of, High just like shoving the baby in Ed's lap after they've kidnapped it, she's like weeping, saying like,
"Oh, he's beautiful."
Yeah, he's awful damn good. I think I got the best one.
I bet they were all beautiful. All babies are beautiful.
Like that's all it takes. And I think that goes back to sort of some of the hopefulness I was talking about in terms of like the human species is this like instinct to protect and care for this baby, like no matter how you encountered it, no matter how you came to it. And maybe you're like the John Goodman and his brother characters, and you had no intention of ever having a baby or caring for a baby, but once the baby is within your care, and even if you keep screwing up and leaving him on the roof of the car, you're flipping like that. It is the most important thing in the world. It's more important than getting away from the cops after your robbery. Anything is like to protect the life of that child. And that's, I love that instinct kicks in for absolutely everybody in the film.
Yeah.
No matter what, like it is just a universal thing. That is also a very optimistic humanist thing that, you're not going to get in a No Country for Old Men, of course. There, plenty of other movies and scenarios where people just abandon a baby, kill a baby, whatever. Even just to demonstrate kind of like the evil of a character.
Yeah.
What's so powerful about this is just like oh yeah, like kind of even if you are sort of a fundamentally bad person, you would do everything to save this baby. And I think that's what makes the villain so comical, is even though it's like it's sort of suggested that the biker would be returning the baby for the reward money or something like that.
Yeah.
But of course, in Cage's fantasy, it's more like he wants like a small, powerless thing to like do violence against.
Yeah.
And this time around, I found it so fascinating. I don't think I've like paid good enough attention to it before. That Nicolas Cage, when he first dreams about the biker, he sort of feels that he's created him, and that he brought this kind of like you know powerful evil into the world as a threat to the thing that he wants to protect. And that seems to me like a sort of like parental fantasy as well, right? Like as soon as you have a baby to protect, you're imagining like the worst possible thing coming from your baby, and what you have to do to protect it. And so that's a very, I don't know, magical, strange strand of the film that he sort of conjures this guy, just as his worst fear, right?
Yeah, and I think that works really well for me. That it felt like to me very much like he conjures him into being. And I do think about, I guess on the one hand, yeah, I do think of my friends who've had kids. A couple who I know they were like immediately like Ring cameras, and one was like, I'm gonna get a gun because it's just time now. And so I do think, yeah, it speaks to that fear, like that immediately comes up in you if you have a kid. And that's something that I've always thought about on a personal level. I just think I would be, and I guess I've heard through various forms of media, books, movies, TV shows, that it's impossible to relax afterward.
I think that there must be an automatic paranoia to that.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what makes that character, which I guess is like, I mean, it's got to be all on some level like a Mad Max joke, a spaghetti western joke.
Yeah,
that there's just a guy who's like just wants to come hurt your baby for no reason.
And there's also that No Country for Old Men connection there to me too. Like he's not Anton Chigurh, but he's essentially a very bad guy who's been called upon to do this thing.
Yeah, and an unstoppable force, let's say, who is hunting your family, doesn't want you to have any sort of peace.
Yeah. And it did feel like that was, I guess, as well as like conjuring him to being, it feels like that's so much of High's or Nicolas Cage's like framework for understanding the world as this place is going to do, that has done him wrong and that will do you wrong.
Yeah, I mean, he calls out Reagan pretty early on, right? He's like, I tried, but this some bitch Reagan in the White House. I think he's so. I love his purity of heart too. I mean, throughout the whole film. Yeah. But when he says it was really hard with Reagan in the White House, but then he follows that up by saying, well, they say he's a good man. Maybe his advisors are.
Yeah. Feeding him the bad advice.
It's so pure-hearted of him to be like, even finding a reason that like Reagan might be wrong, but like he means well.
Yeah. Okay. That's true. With a movie like this, I'm wondering like what, I think I sent it to you. How would you rate kind of your crying reaction this most recent time? I know you said devastated wasn't the right word.
Yeah. So like I said, this time it was getting me a little earlier with that sunset scene, because I kind of know that it's setting out the end, and it's just so beautifully done. And they're kind of like, their love for each other and, quote unquote, the salad days is like so beautiful. And I love their like love story coming together. And when, I think she was even getting me when, Holly Hunter is like crying the third time she's taking his mugshot and saying her fiance left her. And then he delivers the romantic monologue about how,
tell him I think he's a damn fool, Ed. You tell him I said so, H.I. McDonough. And if he wants to discuss it, he knows where to find me in the Maricopa County Maximum Security Correctional Facility for Men, State Farm Road, number 31, Tempe, Arizona. I'll be waiting.
That got me. The sunset got me, but that was just kind of like a little misty-eyed thing. And then by the end, I kind of know it's going to happen. And as soon as it kind of starts, I guess, when they return Nathan Jr. and they have the reconciliation, and Nathan Arizona is sort of like forgiving of them and tells them that they're good people, which is like, well, sorry, I mean, as someone raised like Irish Catholic, if anyone ever tells you you're a good person, I'm like, oh my god, no, I'm already pretty weak at that point. And then as soon as High starts to dream, I always know it's going to happen. And it's interesting because he goes through the different stages of the dream, which kind of deals with guilt and stuff too, right? Because it's like he's imagining, John Goodman and his brother going back to prison voluntarily, like going back through the hole to get into prison, and it has this feeling of contrition that is like very heavy for me. But he is imagining sort of like what's best for everybody, which is not. When I go to sleep, I have like a much more let me imagine all the worst things that could happen sort of feeling that keeps me up at night.
Is that the typical like pre-bedtime?
Yeah, I mean 3-4 days a week, right? It's like let's just cycle through all the intrusive thoughts kind of thing.
Yeah.
So when he has this dream, and it's so, and he doesn't even know, like, going into this, right? Because like they don't really, he and Ed don't really process what Nathan Arizona tells them about, like, you're good people, you should stay together. As far as he knows, he's going to wake up and she'll be gone, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's something really, really held in suspense there. And instead he goes to sleep and he imagines the best possible scenario, which is, I don't know, is brave the word? Like, it's kind of funny, like, to have this dream where you're like, all right, everything went as badly as it possibly could, but I'm not in jail. I'm not dead. I'm still sleeping next to this woman I love. Maybe I'll wake up tomorrow and it will all be different. And by the time he gets to the end of that dream, and when he says, I dreamed on, and it's them and they're old, and I'm like, fuck, man, this makes me weep. Like, it's so good. Is saying the power of imagination too corny? Like, it's
yeah, I think it works for this.
And again, with the low status that he's had this whole time, and the no chances he's ever had, that he can still believe that this could happen, is just rocks my world.
It is, yeah. It feels very much like it. I know it couldn't be me, but I do. I think, yeah, his like keep on the sunny side demeanor is extremely touching. I think in part because I feel like I know I'm not capable of that level of it, but it reminds me that I should at least attempt to.
Yeah, I mean, I really like him shot in that bed too. Like, they kind of do that down from the ceiling shot of him in the bed, and I'm only just realizing now that it's a callback to whenever he's in prison, they do a shot of him in the bunk and he's looking up at the bottom of the next guy's bunk.
Oh,
and it's just the springs and like the other guy's mattress. And in this shot, it's like you can come down on him and he can like look all the way up to the sky in a sense, right? So I feel like there are so many little nice kind of like linguistic and like graphic callbacks in those kinds of scenes. And so for the camera to like kind of come down on him sort of angelically, like as he's having this perfect dream, versus when he's in prison and he can only stare up to like, the mattress that the guy above him is lying on, and like listening to that guy kind of just like talk nonsense about how he used to eat sand when he was hungry, kind of thing.
Sure.
I just think that it is so beautifully hopeful in a way that's not. I feel like it's annoying because I can only think of sort of like corny ways of describing it, but it's not corny at all. That's what is so good about it. It is hopeful and optimistic without being corny at all. I think that's what really gets me.
Yeah. I would say doesn't feel at all corny. I think with him having his dream of his best possible envisioning of what life could be like. Has that ever been your pre-bedtime routine?
I wish. I mean, sometimes I feel limited in that kind of imagination, right? And maybe that's what really gets me about this ending too, is that sometimes I don't allow myself that sort of latitude to think that way and to think about like the beauty of what could come, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's uncommon to be preoccupied with a worst case scenario. It was probably not uncommon in 1987. It's not uncommon now. So to have even sort of and I will say this, to have even like the innocence of that character to wonder about whether that could happen is totally liberating in a way that I find, I don't know, just I think I've used the word overwhelming a few times, but I think that's what it is we are not really conditioned to allow ourselves that kind of hope or imagination or fantasy. And fantasies have been warped by all kinds of other things about, like, you want money, you want power, you want, you want to be a famous influencer or whatever it is. So the kind of pure simplicity of that fantasy he has, where he just wants his like grandkids to rush in and be happy to see him. Maybe you could call it old fashioned or something, but you're like, wow, that really hits actually.
Yeah.
And I mean, it certainly makes me understand why my parents are annoyed at me for not giving them grandkids.
Sure. Yeah, it puts it into perspective. And I guess you could say, I don't even know if it's old fashioned. Like if his fantasy is just to love and be loved, kind of just over the course of his life by, as many people that are in his orbit, then that sounds something that is like relatively porous, like from generation to generation to generation.
And that's what works too. It is timeless, honestly. Yeah. I guess I mean it would be like old fashioned, or again feel corny to like just express that.
Oh, sure.
And that's sort of like the courage of the end of this film is like, no, of course you just want more people to love and to love you back. Like, isn't that what it's all about? And and again, I think that calls to mind the Fargo ending, which is doing it in a much more kind of like muted way, right? Like she's going to have the baby, they're going to have the family, and then like even though there's all this evil in the world, they have this important refuge, and they like continue on in this like great tradition. So, bravo.
Yeah. I mean, there's still, I guess at that time, like Raising Arizona and Fargo, and not that Coen Brothers are like completely linear with how optimistic they are and not, but it feels like there's still some country for old men up through those movies.
There's country for like middle-aged men.
Yeah. At least for a time. But I think as you're saying it, like, if I'm thinking about, I guess you're right. If you present the idea of, well, I just want to have a family and then I want my kids to have kids so I can have grandkids running around the house, there's a certain level of corniness or cringe that gets attached to that. But then if you're thinking about family broadly as the people who you love and love you back, I don't know, that tempers it for me. Then I feel like, I can engage with that. Maybe it doesn't make me want to have kids, but I like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, as you know, as a geriatric millennial, and of course, as I say, have many millennial friends who have kids and who have great loving families and all that. But I know a lot of people like myself who maybe even feel a little selfishly that they want time for their own work, their career, their creativity, especially. I write books. I want to do that, and I don't necessarily feel like I have either the time or the money to raise a child.
Yeah.
I feel like my parents are incredibly accomplished people, but there are things that they put on hold to have a family, to have 3 kids, me included. So I'm cognizant of that, and yeah, you feel like a little guilty for that sometimes, I think, and then sometimes you can point to the material conditions that are creating that world and say like, it's not all my fault that I can't do this.
Yeah, that's obviously a real component. Sometimes I wonder if the material conditions were great and super optimal, and you lived in a world where everyone was like, yeah, if you want a kid, you can have a kid, and don't worry, you're going to be supported. They're going to be supported. Maybe I wonder for myself, maybe I would feel differently, or like
Yeah,
it was
sure.
more of a possibility. But I think maybe part of it is growing up in the era that we are as
Yeah.
millennials. Is maybe it's just a possibility that you close off earlier
Yeah.
because yeah.
That's something that's moving about this movie too, is that these characters have nothing.
Yeah.
And they're like, we want to share everything we have with you. Like, I love when Nick Cage is like bringing the kid home and he's like, take a look, Junior.
Yeah.
This is the best stuff ever. He's stolen him from a mansion and taken him to a trailer home, and he's like, feast your eyes on like all this great stuff. He's like,
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
TV. That's the TV. Like that's the kitchen area where Mom and I chow down. Like, and it's so sweet, like heartbreakingly sweet, that he's like, this is as good as it or better than it would have
Yeah.
been for him in like a family of wealth. Like this is as good. Like that just, yeah, that tears my heart.
Yeah, I guess it's weird. I know his thing is knocking over corner stores, but so much of it seems separate from wanting material things. Like for High, it seems like I have my people, and wherever I am, this is the good life.
Absolutely. And it's not lost on me that they Coen Brothers shot this like trailer park out in the most beautiful desert imaginable, everything about it. And you do feel like when you my cover of the DVD, because I have it on physical media, go to hell streaming, is the 2 of them on the lawn chairs in the desert, like watching the sunset. And you watch that and you're like, yeah, what else do you need? Honestly, like you really do feel that.
Yeah, I definitely feel like, the alluring power of the desert. It feels like a place where anything's possible. Maybe just because there's so much literal space to like imagine it, but very pro desert.
I mean, it'll kill you, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, they make it look nice. I'm wondering, with this movie, I wanted to ask you more broadly, are you generally a crier at movies or in life? Is it a rarity? Do you rate yourself somewhere in the middle?
I kind of like, well, this will sound somewhat psychotic, I guess. I kind of like don't cry in real life, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But I will occasionally cry at films. And it's not like often. I think One Battle After Another was the first new one in a long time that actually really got me at that point. And again, it's like a parent story, like a kind of like accidental parent child and sort of parents' protection of a child and a child's independence kind of thing. So that really got to me. And then I think the other last one was like a Christmas or 2 ago. Watched like The Wizard of Oz for the first time in like 10 years maybe. And my partner Mads fell asleep for the last 20 minutes and woke up to me like actually sobbing at the ending, which I'd never done before. I'd seen it many times as a kid, but I think it just reminds me of my mom so much, and that there's so much that happens at the end of the film that is about sort of saying goodbye and what world you're allowed to live in, and what kind of like limits you have to set on your fantasies and stuff like this. And there's
Yeah.
I don't know, it just really wrecked me that time. And then I don't know, there's like maybe like a handful more that like kind of get me a little misty. But even with movies, it's not that common, but it's like way more common with movies than like my actual life, which is funny. And
Sure.
I don't know. I think both movies and books, I'd say, like, and I think a lot of the time that's because, I'm a big reader, big movie watcher, and I think both of them allow me to process emotions that I like maybe in the moment of something that's actually happening in my life, I like kind of refuse to deal with. So that's a good outlet for me.
That doesn't sound psychotic at all. I want to say that the only reason I'm even thinking about this is that, like, as I've been talking to more people, like specifically about, do you cry at movies? Do you cry in life? One thing that I've heard a number of times is that, well, I don't really cry at my own life or things that happen in life, but I do cry during movies, or I cry while reading.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something I just hadn't considered before, because I think I feel the same way. I feel like I'm less likely to, I guess, for crying to be my response or my outlet in life, or to things that are happening to me or maybe even happening in the world. But then the movie opens up that space, that connection, conscious or not in the moment, to where I think, okay, yeah, this is perhaps what I'm feeling, but I'm not, that's not coming out. Yeah.
Yeah. I think art connects the dots, right?
Yeah.
You don't necessarily think of why you feel a certain way about this thing and this other thing, and then a movie can bring those together in very sharp relief.
Yeah.
Where it's sort of undeniable. You're like, oh yeah, I'm actually really emotional about that, and I sort of was in denial until now.
It's really cool, though. It's a really cool feeling when a movie does that. You think, oh, I guess I do feel this type of way about a thing, because I feel like we're excellent at moment to moment not knowing how we're feeling or why we're feeling the way we're feeling.
It's a really wonderful component of movies, and that's why I'll keep watching them.
Yeah. I also wanted to ask, you said you've maybe seen Raising Arizona like once a year.
I want to say that maybe, yeah. I was going to say I'd seen it for the first time like 20 years ago. I think I've seen it like 20 times. Yeah.
Okay, 20 times. That's a really strong number.
Yeah. No, well, it's like a tight 90 minutes. Like that's the other thing. I have no problem with a long movie. I love some 3-hour movies, but you just can't watch them as many times.
That's true. The tight 90, I feel like when you find a tight 90-minute movie, I feel like really excited. As someone who also likes 3-hour slow cinema sometimes. What typically, like, what makes you throw it on in any given year? Like, is it just a feeling that's building, or does it just kind of hit you all at once? I got to watch Raising Arizona.
I think I don't know. Sometimes I need the sort of like sunshine of it. Sometimes I need the Nick Cage hair. Sometimes I'm specifically just thinking about like the Huggies chase sequence. Sometimes I'm just thinking about the Huggies chase, which I think is, I don't know, one of those things that feels like a Rube Goldberg machine on film, which you don't get a ton of.
Yeah.
And I would love to. There probably is a good oral history just of how they organized the like diagram of like how all that was supposed to work, and the logic of it. And yeah, sometimes I need to. Well, I kind of always am in the mood for a Coen Brothers movie.
Yeah.
So that determines some of it, and then like I don't necessarily always want to put on like Miller's Crossing or something.
No.
Yeah. And another favorite. Well, Barton Fink is another favorite, and that's a very fraught one for me too, because I'm like I am a writer, and Barton Fink can be either very kind of liberating and funny in terms of like, oh, don't take yourself so seriously, because part of Barton Fink's problem is that he's such a pretentious ass. But you could also put that on and get completely locked into like writer's block, just of like a sort of artistic paralysis because of what's going on in that film as well. So
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like I always have to be careful with what Coen Brothers movie I'm going to throw on, and with Raising Arizona, and something like Big Lebowski, I don't have to be careful. I'm like, I know I'm always going to be in a good mood when I watch this. I'm always going to laugh, and in the case of Raising Arizona, I'll cry at the end, but it'll be like a good cry.
Yeah, you have certain things that might tip you emotionally in a way that you don't want to be tipped or can't like handle it in the moment. I think even if you have a movie that you really like. Yeah, I was like, I was thinking about like just last week while my wife was at a conference, like I was feeling like frayed from work, and I really wanted to watch this movie that I'd never seen called In the Bedroom.
Okay.
But then I'd heard it might be a little sad. It has like Sissy Spacek and Nick Stahl and Marissa Tomei. And I didn't feel like I wanted to be, I guess, like tipped over the edge from how I was feeling like with work. But then I eventually put it on and it tipped me. And I actually felt better at the end.
Nice. Yeah. And with the Coens, I think it goes both ways. I think the first time I watched A Serious Man in the theater, I thought it was amazing, but I also thought it was the like most depressing movie I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
And then I watched it the second time, and I was on acid the second time, but I was like, this is the funniest movie I've ever seen.
Sure.
Even with the ending, which is pretty bleak. But I really just laughed my ass off. So I don't know, like there are a lot of them that go both ways, right? But this is one that's just like a reliable, like it's comfort food to me. Like that's why I'll keep putting it on. At this point I've probably seen it way more than any of the other ones.
And I wanted to ask, with your writing, you have a book out, right?
Yeah, my latest book is a story collection co-written with my partner Matt Scobo. It's called Double Black Diamond. They are a lot of freaky, surreal short stories. You can find that on my social pages, Miles Klee, but also at the website asterism.com and in a few local indie stores. But if they don't have it at your store, you can request it because it is also freaky, surreal, black comedy type short stories. A lot of good for fans of sci-fi and weird fantasy and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, excellent. And are you working on new stuff now as well?
Yeah, so I've just had like my own other book that I've been working on forever. My old books are called Ivyland is my first novel, True False is another short story collection, and I've had kind of another book in purgatory for 10 years or something.
That's a good stretch.
No need to talk about that. And then my other work is just I just started at Wired magazine about a month ago. So I'm covering weird internet and tech culture, lots of bizarre social media, AI, other entertainment stuff, and you can find me there.
Oh, hell yeah. That's really cool. Yeah. Well, Miles, thank you so much for coming on. It's been great chatting with you.
My pleasure. Thanks for making me watch this movie again.
Oh, yeah, always.
I'm Not Crying is a production of Wild Burrow Studio. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time.